Do you find that your playing often falls short of what you're capable of? Wouldn't it be great if you could play to your best on a more consistent basis? In this video, I'm going to introduce you to what is perhaps the single most important concept to help you consistently play your best. And I'm going to show you how to use it in your playing. When I help my students to get going on this, they usually find that they're able to achieve much higher levels than they'd realised they were capable of before. So what are we talking about here? Well, when you're playing, you want to be thinking of the processes you're doing rather than the outcome that you're looking for. So in other words, rather than thinking, I really want to play every note in this phrase correctly, you want to be thinking about those ongoing things where if you do them carefully and you put all your focus into those, then that gives you the best chance of getting all those notes correct. We'll get more into the detail later, but for example, one possible process thought might be about making relaxed and calm movements. And I should say these are the sort of things you're going to want to be thinking about when you're performing, whether actual live performance or doing a run through yourself. You might want to look more at the details and those outcomes when you're doing very specific practice on working up one or two technical things. So, letting go of the need to get those outcomes, that's the reason you're playing music in the first place. I know that sounds counterintuitive and it's hard, but let's look at why it's actually really important. So outcome thinking about those outcomes that you really want, tends to take you out of the present moment, and you need to be bang in the present if you're going to play your best. You need to have all your focus on what is happening right now. So when you're thinking about those outcomes, you're often thinking about the future. You're looking ahead to what is coming up, what you want to happen. But also, if you've just made a mistake, it can put you in the past. You're thinking back to what you wish hadn't happened. And neither of those are useful. You've got to be right here, right now, focused on the present. And what's always happening, what's always going on, is those processes you're doing. They're always happening right now. And those processes will continue to happen right now, regardless of what's just happened in the past or what's coming up in the future. Thinking about outcomes is also going to increase the amount of pressure you feel. You're putting it on yourself when you think in that way, because perceived consequences are what contribute to nerves. So sticking with thinking about your processes rather than the outcomes also helps out with performance anxiety. Outcome thinking can also lead to trying too hard rather than letting go. Now, having relaxed muscles, being loose when you play, is one of the things that gets you better results than being really tense. And when you're going for those outcomes, you tend to tense up with the need to control what you're doing, control that you're getting to that outcome. Processes you can relax, and that's going to result in better music. Now, thinking about processes, on the other hand, is going to help you keep your focus strong. That's a really important thing to have to play great music. Because processes provide a really specific point of concentration for you to focus on and keep it there, because they're always going. These processes are ongoing as you play. You can just pick that, put your focus there, keep it there. When you're thinking about outcomes though, then you're splitting your brain power. Some of your mind is carrying on doing all the playing, making things happen as they're meant to, but some of your mind is involved with judging those outcomes. Am I achieving what I'm trying to or not? And that is taking brain power away that is needed if you're going to play at your best. Because let's face it, playing a musical instrument is really tough on the brain. You need all the resources you can get for that. You don't want them involved in judging good or bad. And finally, processes are things that are within your control. You can always control whether you're focusing on them and giving them your full effort. But outcomes, you can't control completely. There may be other members of the band who have an impact on how things go. There may be stuff going on in your environment around you that interferes with that. There may be things going on with you yourself. Maybe you feel tired, maybe you feel ill. You're not completely in control of whether you get the outcomes you want, but you can always give everything you need to your processes. It makes them a much more helpful thing to focus on. Now, this doesn't mean that outcome goals are a bad thing. In fact, they're really good. You definitely need to be measuring yourself in the long term about, am I achieving those outcomes that I want? But they're not helpful for while you're in the heat of the moment playing. So what you want to do is have outcomes in mind before you play. Think about what they're going to be, set them, forget them. As you play, you're focusing just on the processes, and then afterwards, you come back and review how that went with regards to your outcomes. So, how are you actually going to put this into practice? It's all very well having the theory, but what are you going to do with it? Well, the first thing is you've got to know what the important processes are for you. What are those things that you focus on, and you do those processes well, then everything else tends to fall into place. Now, there are lots of ways to get into this. Great one is to think back to a lot of the simple instructions that a great teacher will have told you if you've been lucky enough to have lessons with a great teacher. Often those really simple things like relax your muscles, calm movements, that sort of stuff, those are going to be the sort of processes you're looking for. Now, examples are going to vary dependent on what instrument you're playing, what genre of music you're playing, what sort of context you're playing in. But things to go with might be something like to really focus on the rhythm, lock in on the rhythm. Maybe it's focusing in on the other musicians or the conductor. Maybe it's keeping your arm muscles relaxed. Maybe it's going for smooth playing. You're going to have to experiment, find out which ones are important for you and in which contexts. Now, you need to pick this process that you're going to focus on ahead of time. You don't want to be trying to sort this out on the fly. Then, your measure of success while you're playing becomes how well you're carrying out that process in the moment. It's all about, am I doing this process correctly? Is my focus there? Am I giving it my full effort? You're no longer worrying about, am I getting the outcome that I want? We'll get onto that in a bit. Your ability to do this successfully is going to increase with practice. Don't expect to be perfect at it straight away. There's definitely something where you're going to be really tempted to think about outcomes, not process. So you're going to want to work at this. And then you're going to want to check back in after the fact and see how it went. You might need to try out a few different processes to focus on and see which of those give you the best results. And this is where those outcomes come in again. You're going to be checking back. Okay, I wasn't thinking about outcomes while I was playing, but when I look back afterwards, which of this process thinking got me the outcomes that I wanted most consistently and successfully? And recording yourself is a really helpful tool here. So you might have some questions about this. For example, how on earth am I going to get the results that I'm going for if I'm not thinking about them? So here is where you're setting your intention in advance and you're trusting that you do your processes correctly. That will help you reach that intention. You're going to carry things out as you want. Your subconscious knows what to do, just let it get on with it. And you'll probably also be thinking, but I really care about those outcomes. And this is the paradox. It's accepting that actually the best way we're going to get the outcomes we want is by not focusing on them and thinking about the processes instead. Hard to do, but very powerful. And ultimately, you really want to be thinking and worrying less about the outcomes in the long term if you can. Ideally, you're about focusing on what it is that you can control, the processes, and judging yourself on how you meet those, and judging yourself less on how you meet the outcomes. Again, in the long term, that's actually going to lead to better outcomes, even though it can seem a little bit scary to go about it that way. So that's it. Now, as I mentioned, a great tool to help you stay focused on the process is to record yourself. So why not check out my video on that next? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the Play in the Zone YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button below this video. And if you know a musician who needs this information, then please share it with them. Also, if you want the practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. And now it's your turn. What process are you going to try focusing on first? Let me know by leaving a comment below right now. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.